Welcome back to RMAC Weekly. It's the 2025 season. I'm here with Tanner Draper, CSU Pueblo All Extraordinary Safety, All American Safety, All RMAC Safety. How are we doing, man? How was your summer?
Amazing, man. It's great to be back. Excited to talk about some RMAC football, the greatest conference in the D2 level. And summer-wise, been going good. Little update out there. We got within a week probably going to have the baby boy here pretty soon.
Congratulations on that, man. That's exciting.
Yes, sir. So just kind of setting life up for it, for success for him to be here and give him something to build off of in life. That's kind of my number one goal.
Would you be upset if he picked Mines as his favorite RMAC school?
We can't all be perfect, but I would love it. If he were to grow and to get into the RMAC as much as I love it, that'd be something cool. We're literally an hour away from Highlands, so I'm sure we'll be able to go catch some games as a kid, go see the Pueblo, the Thunderwolves, the Mavericks. Sometimes go up there at Grand Junction. So the goal is definitely to show them that, it's not all about D1. There's opportunities in life, and the D2 level will give you those opportunities.
Well, speaking of D2, that's kind of a perfect segue. We're going to do some house cleaning things, kind of just update everybody on some of the new things in the landscape of D2. First and foremost, we got the new governance for the NCAA. They put this out, automatic qualifications for conference champions. That's huge. That's huge for other schools around the nation, not necessarily for the RMAC. The RMAC most of the time, our conference champion was going to command a playoff bid, but that's huge. And then expanding the playoff field from 28 to 32, that's big. 4 more teams getting the opportunity to compete for a championship, a national championship. Huge for D2. I'm looking forward to the expanded field. What do you think about it?
I think it's a good chance, honestly. We'll talk about the regions here in a minute, but in the past, the RMAC having 3 serious teams that could be up there for conversation to be in the playoffs, and only really bringing in 2. So this kind of gives them another shot for an extra team. That's kind of leading into the fact that we're going to have a crazy little region this year, anyways. But it's awesome because you give more opportunity. That's what we talk about at the collegiate level, is having an opportunity to play in the playoffs. And so when you cut it off at the 28, now you add it up, it gives more kids the opportunity to play in the playoffs, man. That's the best thing. That's the best part of the football that we want to get to. We all want to chase that ring. You want to get the conference ring, but at the end of the year, you want to hold the national trophy. You want to play down there in McKinney. And so it just gives it more of an aspect to bring in more competition.
Well, you were teasing it a little bit. We've had a realignment of the super regions. For those of you guys that follow D2, there's 4 regions. This is how the playoff seeding is formatted. Previously, the RMAC, we stay in Super Region 4, but the change and switch up here is now we have the GSC and the MIAA coming over to Super Region 4, whereas the NSIC, the Mankato's, Bemidji's, they're moving on over to Super Region 3, which is another power with Ferris and Grand Valley. But I would argue, looking at this right here, Super Region 4 is arguably the toughest region in the country now. With the MIAA, us, the GAC, Harding, they've won a national championship in the past 2 years. This is going to be rough pickings getting out of this region. Whoever does come out of it, it's going to be like the Hunger Games in Super Region 4. What do you think about it? What do you think about it?
Very much similar to your Hunger Games aspect is, you bring in your 2 people from your region, you throw them in there and you're cheering for them, but it's a slaughter fest, man. We don't know who's going to play where, what's going to happen. And I really do enjoy the aspect that they're changing it up, because it gets boring when you play the same team in the playoffs every year.
Are you just saying that because you're tired of losing to Mankato?
I might be tired of losing to Mankato, man. that might be it. I'm tired of seeing purple show up in the stadium, playing in that cold weather down there. Yeah, that might be it. But it's also just cool to see new faces, man, and new routes to how teams became national champions. You're not having to play the same 4 teams. it just changes it, gives it more aspect that I was talking about, that give you some new faces to see, some new rivalries in the playoffs.
I think it's gonna be fun. Definitely, we see the new matchups. I can't say that I'm excited. I'm rooting for the RMAC to go all the way. It's gonna be rough, going up to possibly play MIAA schools. I saw when Mines played Harding a couple years ago. I saw when we matched up with them. It's gonna be rough pickings, but I do think iron sharpens iron. So I think over time in these coming years, it's just gonna drive up the level of play in our conference. We're gonna have to. We're really gonna want to compete with these teams. Speaking of which, this is an RMAC centric podcast. Let's get to the RMAC. Let's talk some RMAC football. Well, first, actually, let's do top 25. And this is kind of just to drive home more of that point of how tough Super Region 4 is now. If you look at the top 10, 5 of the top 10 teams hail from Super Region 4 now. And if you expand that out to the top 15, 7 of the top 15, 9 of the top 25, this is going to be rough pickings. Like, looking at it now, Pueblo, they're playing Central Missouri pretty early in the season. Like, it's going to be rough. What do you think about that? 5 of the top 10 teams hailing from our region.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta give a shout out really to the RMAC and how they schedule their out of region games. This isn't the SEC. We don't go play the small teams. We go try to find real competition. I know there's a lot of talk about Central Washington this year, and they're getting hated and stuff. Well, this is a chance for them to prove it when they come play against the RMAC teams that are going to be going up there. But I'm really awesome. It's really cool to see Oklahoma, get brought into this, because I really do like Central Oklahoma. They've got a good team, so that's bringing that over. Pueblo, Western, you love seeing them back to back right there at 7 and 8. I am surprised not to see Mines this year in the top 25. But that's a team that we always kind of put out there that they're gonna do something. They're going to show up, and this is going to change. This is all just a guesstimation, a prediction of how we see the season anyways. And so it's going to be cool to see how this shakes up. The top 10, a lot of those teams are playing each other in the first couple weeks. So, I think it's Pitt State, right? Pitt State's got a crazy.
Ferris, they got to go up to Ferris right out of the gate. Yeah, it's going to be a huge game. I want to say Grand Valley's playing somebody big in here. Who's Grand Valley? Maybe it's not week 1, week 2. I want to say Grand Valley has a big tilt. It's going to be madness right away.
Yeah.
Pitt State, I think they're the ones that have like 4 crazy. Because I want to say they got UCO week 2 right after, if I'm not mistaken, Ferris. It's going to be madness. It's going to be fun. I can't wait for it to get started. I can't believe we're only a week away, bro.
I know. That's one thing we were talking about earlier, is the fact that we've been waiting all summer. Me and AC, we talk all the time, and we kind of put friendly wagers here and there. I know we can't wait for the Mesa Pueblo week, and we really can't wait for that November kickoff to when we start getting to that gold box, and Western and Pueblo are jousting it out and kind of seeing how it goes from there. But
speaking of them jousting it out, that's actually exactly what the coaches predict will happen later on this season. They had a tie for first place for the conference lead in the preseason coaches poll. Coming in third there is Mines. Mesa, even though they got the win over Mines last season, they're coming in at 4th. You see the list there. What do you think about that tie at the top? What do you think about a tie?
Man, that's the best 2 that you want to see. You see Western been growing throughout the years, and it's cool to see that they're just finally up there. I really do think they got the squad this year to at least take over the top spot. Now what we really got to see is they've got the leftover gas to get past the rounds when it comes to it in the playoffs. Pueblo, they're going to be it's not a rebuild, but it's going to be, you're not familiar with the leading faces anymore. We don't have Daniel Bone walking around, that leadership aspect of it.
Let's get into it all the way.
Yeah, my bad.
All the way. Go for it. Tell us more. No more Daniel Bone. That's huge. Speak to that leadership that they're losing on the back end, and just overall as a team with a guy like that, and a Dominic Feeney being gone, Makia Scipio, Cody Ramming. What's it going to be like? What's this defense going to look like? you think?
Yeah, throughout the history, whenever you look at the Thunderbolts, it's really been the defense has been the aspect of the team. The offense, they're going to score, but the defense is who has won the games. They've been the leadership every year, since way back when they won the Natty, when you had Gerard and get up to LeBron, Darius Williams, Marcus Lawrence, Daniel Bone. The history of that is the DB has always been the leader. And I'm not saying Keith McCaney, you're not going to be the leader, but the face of the defense is Gary, and that's going to be something different that we're seeing. Really goes off to the offense too. We've talked about Reggie. Is Reggie going to be playing? Is he going to be there? And if he is,
we've got some confirmation. We can say Reggie is going to be playing this season. That's all we can say, but Reggie is playing this season.
And that's a huge aspect for him, man. Like when you return, honestly, I'm even going to not even talk about Reggie that much because, they're bringing back Andrew Cook. Lost, that was a huge loss last year in the receiving crew to bring him in there. To have Zach, Cookie, Reggie, that receiving court, you can lean on them, right? And you're excited to see what they do. I know V Hill's excited. I know Foskey's out there excited on the defensive side. Me and him have been talking out through the summer. It's really going to come down to the leadership of the team, though. Your players are who hold each other accountable. And then, like I said, when it's changing now, who's holding who accountable now, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, besides just leadership aspect, like we were talking about some of the losses. They had some big losses that we can speak to. Losing their running back last year. I'm losing his name right now. He was all world. Howard Russell. Howard Russell was amazing. 1,000-yard back, fringe All-American back. He's gone. They bring back Keon Martinez, and then they bring in some transfers. They bring in a transfer, Devin Cross from Midwestern State. Kind of a change of pace back, more faster guy, elusive guy. Keon Martinez, last time he played in 2023, rushed for about 750 yards. So he's a really solid, effective back. We'll see what he looks like in his return. But replacing Howard's production, Howard was just electric last year. Do you think they can? Do you think they can simulate some of those big plays? Like he's breaking off 50-yard runs left and right. Do you think Keon and the combination of Devin Cross can fill that gap that Howard Russell leaves in his graduation?
I really do think they can, because at the end of the day, it comes down to the O-line, and they're returning a bunch of guys that are been some dudes, right? So when you can build that great wall in front of you, you can get yards. At the end of the day, you're only trying to get 3.3 yards, right? They've got the guys that are going to be able to do that. I am excited to see if Keon can get back to his athletic little scat back ways. But he's shifty, man. He's a cat. You pick him up, his feet are still moving, and it's crazy to see how he does it. But it kind of said it. It's this year. It's changing from where the defense has primarily been the carrier to now offense. You've got to be able to put up the 40 points per game, and defense. If you can hold them to where you're at your 20, you're going to win games, right? That's at the end of the day, that's how you win a game. You score more than you give up, right? So, I really do think the O-line is going to be the hard principle on the offense. We keep that quarterback protected regardless of the face that's back there, and we get the ball to our playmakers. It's going to be great things for them.
What are your thoughts on the quarterback? Let's talk about him a little bit. Roman Fuller. What are your thoughts on him? He didn't start all of last season, but when he did start the back half, he was pretty prolific. What do you think he could do with a full season? With the reins, so to speak.
Yeah, no, that's hard. The start last year, we were saying, they were changing quarterback back to back, and that's hard for a defense to scheme on. Now the defense is going to maybe know the face. They're going to have some schemes. He's got some experience of being the guy back there at the helm, and if he can continue building and growing, then they're going to be pretty much unstoppable on the offensive side. We don't know really what the scheme's going to look like this year with the new offensive coordinator change, but I'm sure it's going to be very similar to kind of what they did last year. A bunch of rollout, bunch of quick plays, kind of like a Mines aspect, count the box, get the ball out. If the box is good, keep the box in or keep the run in, So it's really just, it's going to come down to the players making the plays that the coach calls, right?
Mm-hmm. So, what's your take on that? Speaking of coaching, I'm not gonna hide it. I'm a big fan of Brayley Brown. I think he's a brilliant offensive mind. Losing him as a coordinator, I believe last year he was sharing the role as a co-coordinator, but he was coaching the quarterbacks and whatnot. How big of a loss is that? Do you think that, or do you think this ship just you think this is just a well-oiled machine with V Hill at the helm?
I think it really does play an aspect too as a player. When I was at Pueblo as a player, we had like 4 different coordinators every year. We could never keep a rhythm with the same scheme. It was always changing. On the defense side, we had 3 different coordinators. It's hard for a player to build that trust and know if that guy is going to be there next year, right? You come in as a freshman, you're looking at the coaching staff that brought you in. You're excited to develop under them, play under them, and then it changes, right? So I I like Brayley. I think he's going to do great things up there at
Northern
Northern.
State.
Yeah, Northern. He's going to do some great things, but it comes down, if the players can still believe in what they're being preached to every day, that the sky is truly the limit for these guys.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I just want to mention some of the super productive transfers they're bringing in on the defensive line. Sam Aponza from McKendree University. He's first team All GLVC last year. Had 10 TFLs, 5 sacks, forced a fumble. Devin Cross, who I already mentioned, the running back, 3-time All LSC running back. That's impressive to me at Midwestern State. Kellen Curtis, he was a starter for Southwest Baptist University. They're a team over in the GLVC. Another big one, Caleb Manning for Midwestern State. He was honorable mention all LSC last year. He had 10.5 TFLs, 2.5 sacks. Jalen Shaw, last played in 2023 at Midwestern. I was there in person. We played at Pueblo and he had an interception. So they're bringing over some pretty big guys. Even Adam Sala from Northern Michigan. He's a safety, productive guy that started last year. So it's like they're not just bringing in guys that necessarily weren't getting playing time at other places. They're bringing in, established, proven players. And just supplementing that with guys like Gary. Like you said, it's going to be a lot different this year. I kind of agree with you. Not to take anything away from the DBs. They had 3 DBs on the preseason all-conference list. Caden, Keith, and Donovan. Donovan, who was actually a first-team preseason Elite 100 for us too. So they have a great, great secondary. I'm not saying they don't, but I kind of do see Gary as the leader too, which is kind of a throwback, kind of a throwback to the Brandon Payer kind of days. I think if he can have a season like that, like he can maybe challenge for that Defensive Player of the Year. But, I mean, it's going to be really hard to snatch it from the guy and the team that we're going to talk about next, and that is none other than the Western Colorado Mountaineers, led by Ricky Freeman and Drew Nash, who Tanner thinks should run for president, right?
Yep, Drew Nash for president, man. I've never seen a kid more just a leadership role. I got to watch him play last year at WT at Person, and they had some ebbs and flows. That's football for you. But the way he carried himself up and down that sideline, I would love to play behind a quarterback like that. And I got to have some good quarterbacks at Pueblo, that I looked up to. But man, Drew is just that kid that he doesn't care if you're in front of him and you're 255 pounds, 6'6", he's going to get the first down. He's going to make the play. And that's what you ultimately want from a quarterback. You want a gamer. You want somebody who's going to take the aspect and go make it, that's.
Do you think so? Drew Nash last year was named an AP second team all-purpose player. First team all RMAC. He was second team all region. Do you think Drew Nash can have a Harlan Hill run? Do you think he has a Harlan Hill run in him if Western were to run the table?
I do think so. Every year we get you got to throw one name out from each conference, and it's going to be hard between if Reggie can, stack it up, if it's going to be him or Reggie to get that nomination. But, if he does and he continues to grow and that offense around him can service him to that, to it, he's going to be unstoppable. He's a great passer. He's great on the feet. He's great in the pocket. He's just that commander that you want to have for you. So when I say, Drew Nash for president, man, he's already got all the votes on his team. You can tell it when they all walk around, you see him step up. You got him as quarterback, man. You have a chance to win every week.
speaking of his offense and those around him, they lose Braden Hogan in the backfield, but I'm actually really excited about. I don't know if you recruited him while you were coaching, but Isaiah Jones out of Mesa Ridge, uh, thick, fast, powerful back. He was a freshman last year. I think he got hurt, but he played early. I want to say it might have been against WT. He had a really long run, 50, 60 yarder. I'm really excited to see him in an expanded role coming off that injury. I think he'll be big. And then the receiving core, they lose Josiah Ion. He ends up going to Fresno State. Shout out to him for doing that. He's a big-time receiver last year. But they still have Victory David, probably one of the fastest, maybe the fastest guy in the league single-handedly. Braden Hogan's been pretty good throughout the years, chain mover kind of guy. And then they're bringing in some transfers. One of the guys personally, Yasir Berry. Can you speak to what he's going to bring to this offense and what he could do to maybe help Drew?
Yeah, he's like kind of said. I had the aspect. I got to actually, try to recruit him when I was at Mesa. He's a really cool kid. It's going to be cool to have for Drew to have that connection. You have. I'm watching the documentary of the Cowboys right now, how, Troy Aikman always knew Michael Irvin was open, right? Like, you have that connection with somebody to where if things are going down, you trust him. You trust that he's going to make the play. And if he can build up what they had at Saddleback, it's going to be great for Drew. And it's only going to give that run game more of a chance to get forward, right? Again, you only got to get 3.3 yards per play and you're getting the first down, right? Like, it's going to be good for that kid to be back with Drew. And if that, changes up for things. I know they brought in another guy, Fresno City as well, or something like that.
Ramon Ruiz, yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be cool if these players that they're bringing in.
They still got DJ Allen, who made some huge plays in that playoff for Washington when he had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
I think he's heading into his junior year, so maybe he even takes his step and takes another step into becoming like a next level receiver. But the defense, the front seven is magnificent. Ricky Freeman, he was the D2. He's D2Football.com's Player of the Year last year. He's arguably the single best defender in the nation heading into the 2025 season. Had 24.5 TFLs last year, 12 sacks, blocked a couple kicks, just relentless on the field. And, he's flanked by some other, savages as well. Jaden Young, the other end that they have, he's a run stuffer. He's a great pass rusher as well. He made a lot of big plays. Mikey Smith in the middle, maybe not the biggest D tackle you've ever seen, but boy, does he play bigger than his size and whatnot. And then the linebacking core. The linebacking core is amazing. Cade Musser balled out in his first year, really starting last year. Cameron Cooper was the defensive freshman of the year in the conference as a true freshman. So imagine what he's going to be like as the game slows down for him. He's probably put on some more weight this offseason. Caden Stewart is coming back. You know how good K-Stu is. K-Stu is going to be amazing coming off the edge in Coach Hour's defense. I'm just expecting this defense, as long as the secondary can plug up some of the leaks it had later in the season in the secondary, I think that this defense could even possibly be the best in the nation.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the head. Speaking of, right here, he's going to be we're watching somebody who's going to play on Sundays. He has that aspect. It's a true kid that's going to play on Sundays. Everything he does, he's dynamic, man. And so if you can just get him to go one more step above, that defense is only going to be nastier. I'm happy you've already said about K-Stu. I got to, be a coach with him, or coach him in a way, I guess, at Mesa, and be around him. And, the athletic ability he brings with your blitzes, the fact that he can pop out into a zone, he can cover. He's got the smartness to play football. That only just gives you more weapons as a coordinator. You're bringing it from here, bringing it from there, moving to here. And that's just what's going to take Western to another step. And can they get past the levels of where they've been? We don't know, but we're going to see in their first couple of games, because they've got a little bit of a battle, but Western, they've got the biggest advantage out of every team. You got to travel all the way up there, play in that low or the high elevation, can't breathe. So if they can suck the air out of the offense, there's no way that, Western really does not win games this year. That's just truthfully how I see it.
I don't think there's any reason to think that they're not capable of punching up. Like every year, the past 2 years, they've done it each year. I mean, they made it to the playoffs in 23. They lost at home to Central Washington. Last year in the playoffs, they played Central Washington again. They beat them. They ended up losing on their home field to Bemidji, but they were a game away from playing for the regional final. I think that experience that they got, they bring back a lot of those guys. I think it's going to be big. I'm looking for Dre Thompson in the secondary to really break out. He came on last year as the season went on. They're gonna need him to replace guys like Ethan Sanchez Maxwell, who I think was kind of the brains of the secondary. I think you kind of saw the secondary fall apart in the Mines game when Sanchez Maxwell got hurt. It kind of just fell apart. But it's going to be a lot of new faces. There's no more Bryce Lucas. He transferred on. He went on to Eastern Washington. Jack Jones is now coaching. Shout out to Jack Jones. Huge fan of that guy. I love that he's coaching now and getting back to the kids. But they got some transfers. JoJo Flood out of San Mateo, College of San Mateo. I've heard some big things about him. And then Joey Fox out of Santa Ana Junior College. I'm expecting that they're going to be leaning on those guys to be some big time players. And then they got some young guys too. Some of their red shirts last year that were some highly touted prospects. I bet you remember this name. You remember Ramon Pacheco out of Pine Creek?
Yep, I got to go watch him. I can't remember who they play. Oh, Vista. No, it was Roston Valley. Went and watched him play that playoff game, and I was pretty impressed with him. I thought he could do some things.
Feisty guy.
Yeah, multiple aspects. He could play corner, play nickel, and if you get him to play at a college level and be as athletic as what he was at the high school level, I mean, again, sky is only going to be the limit for these guys. And I mean, the elevation's already given them a little bit closer to the sky, but they just got to be able to put it all together and make a true run with it, right? No shooting ourselves in the foot. No giving up the big plays and not being able to react back to them. So, can they get past the second round this year? Can they get to the third round? Can they get the fourth round? Only time's going to tell. I mean, this is only, it's week -1 right now. Next week's going to be when we're kicking it. We're excited even more. But, we just got to see how they kick it the next couple weeks. First 5 is going to be, you sit back and study where you're at with your team, and if they come out 5-0, watch out for Western. Watch out for the Mountaineers.
Okay, well, those are the big two. Next, kind of so to speak, the next tier of the conference is it's going to be Mines leading the way. Mines, who is coming off an 8-3 season, definitely not a bad record. As much as Mines is like last season's kind of looked at as a down year by Mines standards, which this is good that your program has standards so high. 8-3 is not a bad record. There's a lot of D2 schools around the country that wish they could go 8-3. That was a down year for Mines. They're bringing in Bob Stitt, who kind of built this program up in the 2000s and the early 2010s. Do you think this is a reload or a rebuild?
I definitely don't think it's going to be a rebuild. Mines is too smart to be rebuilding. They're the brains for a reason. It's really going to all react on Flynn right here, man. If Flynn can keep them going, then there's no reason that they can't be back at the top, right? I'm not.
Do you think Flynn goes off regardless of who's playing quarterback? Because we don't know who the quarterback is right now. We don't know if it's Jake Sipe or if it's going to be Joseph Capra. Capra started some games last year, has some dual threat ability, but Sipe is the elder statesman of the group. Like, do you think Flynn is so good it doesn't matter? Because you'll remember this just like I do. 2017, the year after they had Dvorak, the quarterback, I want to say his name was Ben Bollinger. He was a good quarterback, but he wasn't necessarily like that transfer that Isaac Hart. Remember the guy that they had senior year in 2018? Remember there was like a dip.
Yeah. And
it wasn't a great quarterback, but Brody still went off anyways. Do you think Flynn is that caliber of receiver?
That's what you hope him to be, right? At the end of the day, the scheme's what's gonna get him open. They love to do the little quick crosses, and if they can get him hot, they get him hot. But at the same time, we haven't talked about the name yet of Landon Walker. But if Landon Walker can can step up to the role of that running back one, get the mad carries, it's going to open up Flynn to get the receptions, right? I can't say, yeah, Flynn's going to be the guy that we want to lean on the whole time because, weirdly enough, Mines always has 2 receivers a year that pop up and you're like, whoa, where'd that kid come from, right? And then he ends up staying and being the face for the next 4 years. But I do think he has the chance to go ahead and be one of the best receivers they have, not the best receiver they've had in the history, but put his name up there, etch it into the history books.
I mean, the guy that I expect to step up into that number 2 role is a guy that's been playing for the last couple of years. I think last year he was down in production. I don't think he got targeted as much, but Nick Stone is a pretty good receiver. I imagine you remember him out. I think he came out of Mountain Vista. He's a really good receiver. Axel Richard, one of the fastest guys on their team, who's been in that receiving room for a couple of years. Now that Max is gone, Max, all-time great up there, arguably the greatest. Now that he's gone, I think it opens up, and gives more. I mean, Flynn's stepping into that, number 1 role, and he's going to get the most targets. But I do think it opens it up for more guys to step up and, start making their names known. Landon Walker, I love what you said. I think he should get more carries. I remember playing against Cam Mayberry. I remember watching Michael Zeman play. Those guys are touching the rock 25, 30 times a game. I think Landon – I think he could handle it. I'd love to see them lean on the run game to open up the pass game instead of, using the pass as the primary weapon of choice. But that remains to be seen. Coach Stitt, it's going to be exciting to see him in year 1. The defense, though, they're losing that triplets of linebackers that have been all-conference guys almost all their time there. Adrian Marino, Jaden Healy, Hayden Gray. How do you think they replace those guys in that leadership on the defensive side?
That's where that's the hardest thing. You always look at the turnover hat with them and the fact that they get their turnovers and they get their sacks. That's what Mines was about. Their defense really gave their offense the chance to have 14, 15 possessions a game. You really got to look over to the defense and say, who's going to be the one to step up? Who is going to be that leader? Is Zimmerman going to be is Jackson going to be the face, the leadership that they need? And it's hard to kind of be that leader when you're just out there by yourself all day. But, that, again, it's kind of that question that we're just kind of throwing up in the air. Is the defense going to step up to the natural things of how mine have been in the past? So, that's going to be the one thing this year. If the defense can't get the offenses off the field, the offense is not going to have the shot. Flynn's not going to get that many chances. Landon Walker's not going to be running the ball. So it's really this is the first year that it's going to be based on the defense. Hey, we need y'all to get us a couple stops. Our offense is already going to put up some points, but if you're not giving us those chances, it's hard to play a game. If we do go against Harding again and they're getting 15 whatever series, killing 6 minutes at a time, and we're only getting out there for 2-3 minutes, it's how you lose games real quick, right? Time of possession is a big thing in football.
Well, their secondary returns a lot of experience. So as far as turnovers, tips, and overthrows, you got to hope that those guys can have a big year. Will Ramsey, he's a hell of a player. Joel Diaz, like you said, Jackson Zimmerman, probably the best of the bunch. Former All-American, whatnot. They got to force some turnovers and get that excitement back. There was something about playing in Marv K a couple of years ago. It was amazing. I'd love for them to get back to that feeling and really get that excitement back going. That Western game was I was sad being there in person last year.
Yeah.
But moving along, a team that actually got the best of Mines last year in arguably their biggest win of the season, the Colorado Mesa Mavericks, steady building under Coach K. Where do you think Mesa goes this year? They lost a lot of guys in the portal. Jason, Tommy, that's the huge one. I'm going to harp on that. How great of a player I think he was, and the leadership aspect. I think that's a huge one. Colin Sturr was out of his mind last year, All-American and whatnot. Charlie Smith is hurt. How did the Mavs, losing Trent Matthews, the defensive coordinator, how did the Mavs bounce back?
I think that's the biggest one's the name that you hit on the last. Losing Trent Matthews, who amazingly, goes to Colorado State, going to be a coach there. Great job, coach. Like I'm super excited for him. But he being behind him, getting to work with him, the way he was able to get the most out of these kids, that's going to be something that you want to see changed, or you want to see stay there, not changed. But the DC they're bringing in, somebody who I actually have a connection with, the guy that I ended up following to Pueblo is Hunter Hughes. He recruited me, and I believed in him. And unfortunately, after the first year, he went to West Texas to be the head coach. But his gritness that he brings to football just kind of follows to Coach K and how he wants the program to be. They're really gritty. They're physical. Coach K in the media day the other day said it's their time. It's time for them to step up. All these kids, they started playing as freshmen. Cash started as a true freshman here, so now it's time for these kids to, get up and say, I'm going to leave this program better than how I found it. And this is the year for them to show that out. Defensive side, they've got a lot of faces. It's when I was there, we always just said it was just a blank face. Didn't matter who you were, because somebody's going to make a play. You do it for each other. I really do expect Cash to be that leader. It's really hard that they lose Jakari Williams, who a lot of people look at and they're like, oh, he's 5 foot nothing. And that kid played and was not scared of a single person. But to have him on your coaching staff, giving his advice, what he's seen in football, I'm sure he's been in Cash's ear every day in, day out, just giving him what he sees, making him better. That's kind of what you want to see, on the Mesa. They're going to be led by the defense this year. They're the defense points per game. You want to see it probably around 10 this year, because you have the kids that have been there for 4 or 5 years now, making plays. A name that, we want to throw out there. I know we talked about Jason leaving, but I think this is a good chance for Gibby Leifrin to kind of step up and make his name known. I was really hyped to coach Gibby while I was there. I thought he had a lot of ability, that he could definitely play ball. He's gotten a little bigger now, so as long as he's running around, flowing back there, getting some turnovers, it's going to lead into the offense kind of getting some shots.
I agree. And the offense, that's what I'd like to see them do this year. Like we already know, Mesa has 2 Thunder and Lightning. They have 2 amazing backs in Brandon Belgrave and Aiden Taylor. Both those guys are super productive. They both can bust something on any carry. And we've seen the offensive line grow over here. The Cooper Mumfords and Caleb Gribbles, we've seen them grow and really become dominant offensive linemen. I expect that to just continue further on. But I do think for them to take that next step to the next level, they're going to need to become more dynamic and diversified in how they attack people and really get something going through the passing game. I think that gets hindered, though, when you lose your top 2 receivers. I know they still got Trep coming back, and they think really highly of him, and he's shown a little bit. He's shown he can play. But losing those 2 freshman receivers last year, that hurts bad.
Yeah, no, and that's true. And, we don't even know who the quarterback is right now. That they're having that competition, which is great when you can say you're having that kind of competition that, hey, before week 1, we don't even know the quarterback. That means they're getting lots of reps with everybody, and they're finding somebody that they're comfortable. Even if they're in, you're in second string running that second huddle, you get comfortable with somebody, they move up with you. Now you have that guy that you've trusted at the second string. Now you're running ones. It's a lot of good things for Coach Wick to kind of have. I'm kind of excited for him to take last year's philosophy and build onto it, get these kids fully adjusted to their scheme. I know they've bought in now to where they understand what's going on, and here, kind of ring it back. Coach K said this is the time, this is now. So let's see it, Mesa. Let's see it. We're ready for these.
We are ready indeed. As you guys can see, my Maverick coming behind me. I hope the Mavs can go all the way this year. That would be awesome to see out in Grand Junction. But next up, we're heading to Rapid City. South Dakota Mines had a 6-5 year last year, 5-4. So winning record in conference play, winning record overall. They started the year. Their defense was really leaky early in the year, but got it together as the season went on. and they were able to, like I said, have a winning season. They lose Henry Dryden, who's been kind of the guy offensively for them, but they still return the guy we got pictured here, Mason Galbraith. I'm expecting him to probably double his production with Dryden gone and so many unknowns on this offense. We don't know who the quarterback is. I'm not sure who the starting running back is. They graduated 2 pretty good guys. There's a lot of unknowns, but obviously the coaches trust in Coach Floor and just the program he's built and the standard he's built for them to still be picked 5th in the conference. What's your take on the Hard Rockers heading into 2025?
Just going off the stats that you got here, to be a great team, you cannot be this close in your points per game on both sides of the ball, right? You can't come down to 3-point games, right? So you got to see that defense get some points cut off somewhere there, maybe get some more stops, but you got to see the offense get some more plays. And I know last year was kind of rough in certain patches, you'd see him flash and then see him flash out. And you're like, what the heck? It's hard, I've always kind of looked at Mines as a team that you can't, South Dakota Mines. I'll throw that out there. I know they get a little mad when you say that. But, I've always seen them as a team that you can't just write off, right? My senior year, we went up there and we were like, first 3 drives didn't score. They went up, scored on us right off the bat. We were trying to find something positive, and because we overlooked them, we thought, oh, it's just South Dakota Mines, and they came out and smacked you in the face. They might be, the technology school up there. They play football for a reason. And not only that, they play in one of the coolest stadiums. I mean, it's a drive-in football stadium. I mean, that's the coolest thing. You're turning around, cars are honking at you. People are literally barbecuing like 10 feet away from you. It takes your brain out of it, right? So I really, for South Dakota to really make that next step, you got to get some more points, but you also can't give up as many points anymore, right? And it's just going to be something that we got to look at. You can't have those close games.
I think one of their defensive leaders heading into this season is going to be Will Lester, the corner. He's coming into his senior year. He's been playing for a few years. He spoke to that media day. He was very upfront and honest about some of the struggles that they had early in the season last year, but how he felt like they grew over the course of last season, the momentum they had heading into the offseason. So I think if the secondary can fix it, I never doubt that a Coach Floor team is going to have a pretty good front seven. He's going to – whatever linebackers he trots out there are going to be some physical guys that are ready to hit and bang. And I trust that the D-line and the way that they call their defense, they're going to be able to get some pressure. Although losing Alex Engel is a pretty big loss at that outside linebacker position. He's a pretty good pass rusher. But I expect them to be competitive as always. It'll be interesting. I've yet to see them. They've beaten Mesa a couple times. Like, they kind of spoiled Mesa's playoffs hopes last year. But I've yet to – I want to see them if they can beat – can they beat a Colorado School of Mines? Can they knock off a Western? Can they beat a Pueblo? Can they get a big upset? I feel like I've yet to see them, kind of tackle that feat. I'd love to see it this year. That'd be awesome to see for their program, but that remains to be seen. Next up, their arch rival, of course, Black Hills State. The Yellow Jackets, 6-5. Just look how similar these two teams are. They're both at that same point where they're in that tier of the RMAC and they're really good, but when are they going to punch up into that next one? That remains to be seen. What do you think about Black Hills heading into 2025?
It's going to be a different team than somebody that I've actually been able to watch throughout the years. You've always got that kid where there's doodles or someone on the defense where you're just like, man, that kid's going to make plays, right? So you kind of want to see who's going to be that face for them. I have a lot of respect for the head coach. He's like a savage. He gets the best out of his guys every day. He's got the biggest neck, I think, in the world, and it scares me even more. But the good thing for them is that record from last year. You can build off that. When you look and you can say you went positive, you went over 500. That gives you a little bit of excitement into the next year, right? But kind of leads back to what I just said about South Dakota, right? You can't come down to 3-point games, right? So you gotta put points up. I know they love their pin pool. Their scheme is built for runs. So who's going to be that guy to get the ball forward? I know coach doesn't expect 3.3 yards. He wants 7, 8, 9 yards, right?
They got to get back. Cam Goods is pretty good. I like Cam Goods. He's coming into a senior year. I think what's most their offense. I think they're going to lean on the receiving core. I think the receiving core is probably the most underrated receiving core in the RMAC. Just a bunch of productive dudes. Like last year, Boozer was really good. Kelby Olsen is coming back. He's really good. I'm forgetting 11's name. I'm losing his name. I can't remember right now. They have 3 good receivers, and their star, like big play guy, TJ Chuck Warwick, he was injured all last season. He's back in the fold. I think that's going to be huge for this offense. I think their quarterback, Luke Doobie, is pretty good. I think I love his escapability, his ability to extend plays. I'd like to see him be more accurate this year. Really, like take it to the next level with his accuracy and just moving the chains with his arm. But I think the sky's the limit with the receiving core. Truly, I think TJ Chuck Warwick could be a 1,000-yard receiver this year.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you got to think about last year. Come down to that Pueblo game, right? That game was close. They had it. They really did have it. And Doobie played it out of his mind. That was that week that when we came back, I was like, man, I got to respect your game. I didn't know who you were, but golly, So it comes down to, we can't give up those small games. Imagine they take that win last year. What does that do to their morale going into this year, right? Like, we've knocked off the top 3. Well, at least they can say, hey, guys, we were right there. We were just 2 plays away. That kickoff they gave up, I think 2 of them actually, that was a big L, right? Can't have that happen on the special teams. Special teams makes the play. I told my kids all the time at Mesa.
I mean, you can't teach Cody Rammings you can't teach his height. I mean, blocking 2 of them. What do you want? What do you want from the kids? Like,
yeah. I mean, that's exactly it. But when it comes down to get gritty, you gotta get grittier, right? And that is Black Hills and a massive aspect, right? They play in the coldest games up there. Nobody likes to go play in a cold game up there and get stung by a bee. But you got to be able to not shoot yourself in the foot in those big games. You got to be able to take it and go forward.
I think we can look to Cooper Brown on the defensive side. I think he'll be the leader of the defense. RMAC Insider is in the comments talking about Cooper Brown, hands down, is the face of that defense. I'd agree with that comment for sure. He's a standout defensive end. They brought in some transfers, though. One of their transfers I want to highlight because I think he's going to play a big role, part of this defense. Harold Craig the third from CSU Pueblo.
CSU Pueblo, yeah.
Yeah, I imagine you remember him. He's a bigger guy, big, solid guy. He's going to be filling in for Malik Ritchie, who graduated last year. That's going to be that combination of ends. If Harold Craig can play to his potential, some of the hype he had coming out of high school, I want to say he came out of Castleview, that could be a really nice combination of ends. And like you said, Coach Bresky, I just trust that they're a physical bunch. That's the brand of football they play and what they recruit up there. Just can the offense take it to the next level and maybe have them punch up into that next tier of RMAC play. But we're going to move along. Next, we got Chadron. Not the greatest year, 3-8, 2-9 in conference play, but there's definitely some things that you can build on. 19.3 points per game. If they can just get this offense truly going, back how it was going when they had Dalton Host, this team can be really good. I trust this defense. I don't think the defense will be bad under Coach Long anytime soon. And that's despite the losses. Hunter O'Connor's a huge loss. He's an all-time great for Chadron. But I think Will Stimler's going to step up this year. He was a starting in last year. Tanner True is back at defensive tackle. His little brother, Ryder True, popped a little bit last year. The guy pictured here, Dak Shirati, I think he's one of the most slept-on DBs in the nation. The defense is going to be good. Just can the offense get it together and really take this team to the next level?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about DJ Ralph, last year. It's hard when you come back from an injury in the middle of the year and you're banged up, you're trying to get momentum going. Now he gets the chance to kind of start from the beginning and go forward, right? Like you stay hot. If a quarterback's hot at the beginning, your offense is going to be hot as you grow, right? Chadron has the history of just kind of playing those games late and being close and having a chance. So and on top of that, their special teams can kick from anywhere on the field, it seems like. I mean, 60 out, 70 out, 80 out, they're making them somehow. Might be that Nebraska wind kicking into it. Or the good old country, that good old country kitchen giving you extra energy. But yeah, I really is going to come down to them. Really, their offense has got to be their key to their team. That's going to be where your veteran leadership's going to probably be at, and you can't have the ball stop.
They need like you were harping on it. They need guys to stay healthy. They need DJ Ralph to stay healthy for the duration of this season if he's going to be the guy. And they need Tommy Thomas to stay healthy. Tommy Thomas, he wasn't healthy for all of last season and kind of had a down year. If you look at his 2023 year, still was an all-conference guy, no doubt. But I'm looking for him to get back to that level he was at in 2023. And to do that, he's going to need DJ Ralph to stay healthy. But this team, I think that's what it really comes down to. If the offense can take that step and get to the next level, I don't see why they can't be a 6-5 team, get a winning record again. I think that's definitely on the table for Chadron this year.
Yep.
This here, though, is my team that I am predicting to punch up. This is the team that I think will be a kind of that Mesa team last year, 7-4-ish. I think they're going to have a complete turnaround. Coach T, Coach Top. I don't want to butcher your name. I'm going to call him Coach T. Coach T, he's serious. I love the energy he's brought to the program. I love what he's done. He's been aggressive in the portal. And I just love how competitive they were last year. I was there for that Pueblo game. This guy that we have pictured, the running back, Tavita Valetti, he's a dog. He's a dog, man. And I think they got another one in Mason Peterson. So I think this is my team that I'm predicting to punch up. Tell me what you think about Highlands before I really give you the ins and outs, because I'm going to tell you about some of these transfers they got, and it's big news in New Mexico right now.
Well, I've talked about this last year. One of my favorite offenses is the option. One of the best teams in the league runs, or in the conference, or in D2 runs the option, right? And Harding. The difference between them, though, is when you have the ball on offense, they're able to keep the clock, kill the clock, get some yards, get some points, right? Again, you can't expect to win a game when you're scoring 26 and you're giving up 44, right? So you're going to lean on that offense. We need the yards. We need our guys to be big. We need to get, honestly, for them, it's going to be about 4 yards. You need 4 yards for every play for them. The running back is, I always hated it when I went into a game and I saw somebody with no swag, because I was like, okay, who is this guy? Like, why? He got no gloves on. You're just showing up, no spat, no socks high up, nothing like that. And you're like, that kid's got something in him, right? That's what he can do. And if you can lean on
gives it away. The no gloves gives it away every time.
If you're a savage enough, I always hated getting my fingers stepped on and stuff. I had those gloves with the pads on the back. Man, if you got a savage like that, give him the rock. Let him pound the rock, right? And we talked about their additions for the O-line, D-line. I'm sure you're going to hit on them even more. But if you can have that being the power of your team, as being the trenches, again, sky is kind of the limit. I want to give a shout out to my boy Creed out there. I've seen him kind of in the chat a little bit. I know he's coaching up that D-line, and I know he's a physical dude. I got to meet him. I knew him back in Pueblo, and he's a scary dude himself. So if his guys can build off of him, there you go. I know you're harping, you're huge on them. I think they're going to have a year where they're going to get closer to that 500 mark, and that's where I hold them to that standard. But it's got to come down to, you can't give up as many points. You got to be able to kill the clock.
Well, some of the defensive additions, I'm just gonna name some of them and like the places that they're coming from. Lucas Lucero, a linebacker out of New Mexico. Ronan Kimbrough, a DB out of College of the Redwoods, all conference guy, team captain guy, so leader. Chris Tofasau, West Texas A&M, played for him in a sparing role last year. Christian Sunu, New Mexico Military Institute. Last time he played, it was for Coach Tofasau at his previous school. Trevor Romaldo, a DB from Murray State. They brought in a lot of guys that have played at some bigger programs, that have been in some serious programs, that I think they're just going to bring a different aspect to Highlands that Highlands haven't seen in years. And then on the offensive end, you bring in Ike Udengwu from Grand Valley State. I remember watching him play against University of Indianapolis in that their first round playoff game last year. He lit it up. I think this team has the ability to really sneak up on a lot of people. You know how people look at Highlands? You remember playing? You're playing Highlands, you're like, we're gonna beat them. They're probably gonna be undisciplined. I think all of that's over now. I think they're becoming a real team and a real program. So this is my darling pick of the conference this year that I think is going to surprise everybody. But next up, we got yours. Tell us about Fort Lewis, bro.
This is kind of like Mesa, how I said. You've had guys that have been playing since freshmen, true freshmen, right? They've been building into the scheme. They've been buying in. I love Coach Johnny Cox. I've said this year after year after meeting him and getting to fully understand the guy. Like, I didn't know how much of a dog he was when he was playing. If only the kids can just kind of base off of that, right? Like that's awesome. I did not know anything about that. But the biggest thing, you got to have Stone Walker. Stone Walker with the being acclimated back or with the scheme, being healthy. That was a big thing last year. He was out for that big game that I was like, oh, I want him to win this. Oh, he's out, and then you see that game play and they're a completely different team. So if Stone can stay healthy, I have the Skyhawks actually being like one of my top 4 teams. I think they can make that jump. Which a lot of people are going to call me crazy, but hey, last year I said Mankato was going to be Pueblo, and everybody called me crazy, right? But that's the thing about the Skyhawks. Again, another team that you always kind of look over. Unfortunately, I lost to them in my career because I overlooked them, and they came out and smacked me right in the face, right? If those guys that have been there for 4 or 5 years now can take the leadership, can take the scheme, run the scheme the way the coaches are presenting it to you, be able to put some points up on the board, finally get some scores. They got that Jumbotron now, get some replays of your touchdowns, get the crowd in there. That's a big thing. And again, you are playing in another altitude place where it sucks to play as an away team. You can't breathe and you're mad you're playing Fort Lewis, This is going to be the guy, speaking of leadership, this is going to be the guy that's going to be leading the way. Jacob Pitty, second team all-conference linebacker. I think probably the single most underrated linebacker in D2. 122 tackles last year, fifth in the country. Returning for his junior year, bigger, stronger, faster every year he seemed to be. I think he's going to be leading the way. They got Jay Bird, formerly of Chadron State, Northern Colorado. He's going to be playing for him this year. Little Caleb Davis, their safety, little number 9, is a feisty little guy. Kind of reminds me of the Twins from way back. I know you remember the Twins. They need the D line to really get it going, to stop the run. Jacob, as great as it is, him having 122 tackles, you may be going to see that come down a little bit. Maybe he's not making every single tackle. They have some great guys on the D line. They have at least one. I'm forgetting it. I'm losing his name right now. Number 92. He's a hoss. But if the defense can step up, and then like you said, offensively, what is Stone Walker going to look like in year 2 as a starter? Does it slow down for him? I mean, he has all the athletic ability to truly become a star in this league with a dual threat, the ability he brings with his legs. But what does he look like in year 2? All of his receivers are another year older. Some of those receivers are seniors now. Christopher Thomas and Jamil Humphrey. Those are older guys now that have been playing for some years. They got some young, talented guys like Solomon. And then the O-line. That's really – this team, in my opinion, isn't taking the next step until their O-line takes the next step. So whether they do that this year or not remains to be seen. I think they got a great running back. He was a – first team all conference, or he was all conference special teams freshman of the year, I want to say. Orlando Guevara. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm butchering the name. I'm sorry, guys. It's a lot to remember all you guys, but it's week 1.
He's one of he's one of the top guys in the league. He was only a freshman last year, but super explosive, super shifty. I think that offensive line can take a step, and hopefully that new weight room they built a year ago has helped them on that front. But if they can do that, maybe you're right. Maybe they can be a team that can punch up. But, I mean, it remains to be seen. We shall see soon enough.
Amen.
But last definitely not least, though, we got the Adams State Grizzlies. They're bringing in a new coach, Coach Gallus, from he was a DC over at West Texas A&M last year. He's a former player for Adams, so he really understands. This means the world to him. It has to mean coaching at his alma mater and trying to turn this program around. As you see, 0-11, really unfortunate season for him last year. The defense, the guy we got pictured here, Seth Shaw, he's a feisty little guy at safety. The defense, I think they made some plays last year, but it was always early in games, and they kind of just fizzled as games went on. Offensively, it was rough pickings. It's going to be a lot for them to turn this around, but they got a player at quarterback that we both know personally and we've seen up close. Tell us about Gavin Herberg and what he brings to this program transferring over from Mesa.
Yeah, like earlier I said, you want to have a gamer at the quarterback. Man, when you have Gavin back there, somebody who's just really athletic, he's going to be one of the most athletic on your team. When I was coaching him, we actually had him play safety for a couple of games for us. Like he's willing to do whatever he can to help the team. He's got a strong arm. He's very athletically built. He can make the plays. Kind of what you said though. They can't fizzle out. The offense, you've got to be able to control the ball. That was the Achilles heel last year, is the fact that you knew almost every drive was 3 and out for him. And when you have a defense that can make some plays, it sucks when you're going out there for the 17th, possession on defense. It's terrible.
Tiring.
And so that's why it's really if Gavin takes the helm and can get him going, you want to lean on his athletic ability, giving him those rollouts, giving him the sprints, giving him some read options. He's really good at that. And
I think their freshman running back last year, AJ Morita, I think he had some ability. I think he had a 60-yard run versus Mesa for a score. I think running some read option with him and Morita could be the trick for them, to really unlocking this offense and making it sustainable. Like you said, not having 3 and outs, not having turnovers, not giving the ball away. They're going to need it because this defense was really porous last year, and the roster still hasn't been their updated roster still remains to be seen. So we're just I don't know who they could have a roster full of transfers. This new college football world with a bunch of dudes, but we don't know that yet. Just
right.
Based on what they're bringing back last year, they definitely need the offense to get some time of possession, and just not be leaving your defense out there for more than half the game.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it around the head. And I mean, to have a coach that when you're bringing in a coach that not only played for the same school but has that love for it, he can get that passion to his players. I kind of had a weird connection with one of his players last year at WT who talked nothing but great things about him. The way that he sees football, the way that he sees life relating to football, that gets a lot out of these kids, right? Something that Adams truly has not had in the past, and that's why I'm excited to see maybe, not saying they're going to go out and win 6 games, but you want to see them build up in one way. And the best way you build up is at least get 1 win, right? You can't do any worse than the year before that. And it's going to come back to the fact that you can't score 12.7 points a game and give up close to 50 points a game, right? You're playing behind the 8 ball at that point, right? So it's a good chance for him this year. I'm excited for Gavin, like I said, but I think it's really good chance for the coach to instill on this how much he cares for the program and hopefully give the passion to the kids that they want to make Adams better than what they're coming into. It sucks when you're coming into a program that's 0-11, but you want to leave it better.
I love the mentality that he has coming into it. Like their slogan is "We, Us, Our," and I've seen what their coaches are doing. A lot of them, they do a lot of community stuff. Like just this morning, they were at an elementary school. They call it Knuckles, where they meet the kids. They go into school. Like he's trying to really get the whole valley bought in, and I think he's off to a great start. As far as on the field, that remains to be seen. It's going to be rough pickings for him, no doubt. But having a quarterback like Gavin, like you said, his athletic ability, there's going to be sometimes on the field, including the other 11 on the other side, Gavin is the single most athletic person on the field. He truly is that athletic. He's fast as all get out. So that definitely makes him interesting. But until I see that roster, it's hard for me to predict that they're going to do, win very many games in what I believe is a great, very tough conference. But that's all we got for tonight. I'm super excited for the year. Early prediction: who does it? Western. We're not the coaches. We're gonna pick a winner. Western or Pueblo? Who you got taking the conference this year, or somebody else? Who do you have winning the RMAC? Your early preseason prediction.
My early preseason prediction, I've said it. I think it's going to be Western just because you have that leadership. You have a quarterback that's returning, that's a stud. You have the defense that has really the accolades to take you to the next level, right? It's not against my own program here. Like I love Pueblo, but I think Western has the team finally to where there's not a challenge, but they're going to get challenged in November, guaranteed. It's going to happen. But that's who I'm leaning on.
I love Drew Nash. I love Ricky Freeman. I love Coach Baines. I love what they got going on up at Western. But with the news that we got today that Reggie is back in play officially, it's hard for me to not go with Pueblo after seeing what that offense was last year, knowing Roman Fuller is coming back and is just going to be building on what him and Reggie were able to do on the back half of last year. Like you said, Cookie's back in the fold. Rakowski's in his senior year. There's a bunch of other dudes. I didn't even go crazy on talking about all the other additions that Pueblo made throughout the portal. It's hard for me to not see now that the Pack was able to get back on top in the fashion they did it last year, going undefeated in conference play. It's hard for me to not think that they had that feeling that it was, back when the reason why you committed there. You know how it was back in the day? It was Pueblo's conference to lose. I kind of have that feeling. And I'm not saying that I don't think Western can do it. If anybody can, it's going to be Western. But right now with the Reggie news, I'm going to have to go with Pueblo. So, sorry, Mesa. It's never personal. I think Mesa gets it. Mesa's not mad at me. I hope not. Nonetheless, we're looking forward to the 2025 season. As you can tell, we're super excited. We want to thank all you guys for joining us, and we'll be back next week to break down week 0. I'm looking forward to it, and we're signing off for myself and Mr. Draper here. We'll catch you guys next time.